Stranger Things Season 5 has finally returned to our screens after 3 years, and one of the biggest questions following its ending is why couldn't Henry go into the caves where Max was hiding out and had made up her home? Well, this actually connects to the stage play Stranger Things The First Shadow, and also the events that we saw being teased to us in this season of the show in 1959, where Joyce was handing out flyers to a play. So let's dive into exactly what happened in 1959 and all of the events that led to Henry being afraid of the cave. Here is why Vecna can't go in the caves in Stranger Things Season 5 Volume 1. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Why was Henry scared? Well, it turns out that Vecna being scared of the caves actually connects to his origin and how Henry Creel came to possess the powers that he held with him being in touch with the dark side all of those years ago. We didn't see or know much about what happened to him before him and his family moved to the Creel House, or even why the family moved, but the stage play answered those very questions, and it's gonna get a focus in Season 5 Volume 2. Well, it turned out that when Henry was younger, he disappeared for around 12 hours when he and his family lived in Nevada. He ended up traveling to a place that was called Dimension X, and it was here where he got his powers, ultimately confirming that he wasn't born with them like many of us thought could have originally been the case, so it put that theory to bed. Henry went missing in Nevada around where those caves were, which is why he was so reluctant to go inside there. It was a bad memory for him and he didn't want to relive it. When he was in Dimension X, he was exposed to the darkness for the first time, creatures that were ungodly, and it seems like that could be where the Mind Flayer first got its grasp on Henry, ultimately showing us that the Mind Flayer could well be the entity that's actually in control, and Vecna could just be a foot soldier for it and a puppet in which it's able to carry out its true intentions. This would put the Mind Flayer right back at the top of the power ranking that villains have in the show and almost take the show back to its roots in Season 1 and Season 2, so I hope that is the case. The history of how Henry wound up there stems from when interdimensional travel was being experimented by the government in Nevada, and following a staff member from the experiment defecting and hiding equipment in the cave. When Henry stumbled across it whilst exploring the caves, the technology was said to have accidentally activated and transported him to Dimension X. Henry survived the trip and returned back home after 12 hours, but he had altered blood and had a changed personality forever. The fear that was in Henry in Season 5 Volume 1 showed that the pure, young child version of Henry Creel could have almost still been inside of there, and that the young boy that was once afraid was trying to protect the broken man from reliving that past time of when he was younger. Vecna might well know that if he goes into the cave, the memory of what happened could end up playing out, and he might not want that to happen because it was so traumatic. So for now, it seems like Max has found the one safe spot in Vecna's memories where he can't quite get to her. The connection to Brenner and how Henry Creel ended up in Hawkins. When Henry disappeared and then returned, he appeared to be under the control of the Mind Flayer and was beginning to cause harm to things. Brenner actually had an extreme interest in Dimension X because his father once accidentally ended up traveling there when all of his crew died other than him. With his father being on the cusp of death, he told Brenner about Dimension X, and that was where he began his quest to find it and to open a gate to it, longing to find the place that damned his father. One of the main reasons as to why Henry actually ended up in Hawkins was because there was a time where Henry almost killed somebody in his school back in Nevada because of the darkness that he was now possessed with. So the Creel family ultimately moved away from Nevada, far away from where the trouble seemed to be housed, and took him to Hawkins to start a new life away from the drama and association. Henry ended up going to the Hawkins lab to get studied by Brenner, and whilst at the lab, he learned that his blood was different to any other human. Just like Brenner's father when he returned from Dimension X and ultimately died. And whilst there, Henry also learned that he had this connection to the Upside Down and that his powers were most likely birthed when he went missing for a short period of time. This is also where the destructive side of Brenner was shown, as he was ultimately telling Henry to harm people because it would make him stronger. At that point in time, Henry didn't want to harm people, so it showed that the Flayer didn't have complete control of Henry and that the darkness hadn't fully taken over, making him the powerful being that he's known as today. The events in 1959. The events that we saw in 1959 that we were teased with when Joyce was handing out the flyers to the play at the school is something that could end up showing us when Henry Creel passed the point of no return and when the darkness fully took over. Henry had become close with a girl called Patty, and when Henry looked inside of his mother's mind, he saw that she might well have compromised the safety of the one person that he truly cared about by handing her over to Brenner. Henry's mother Virginia was scared of her son, and she really wanted Dr. Brenner to take a closer look at Henry. When Henry took a look inside of Virginia's mind, he saw that she'd previously spoken with Brenner and told him that she'd always thought that something was up with him and that there was a darkness that possessed him. And with Brenner wanting to find out about a girl that Henry was close with, Virginia told Brenner her name. This is what led Henry to lash out, and that's when he simply allowed his mother and sister to die at the hands of himself and the Mind Flayer, showing that he was now willing to cause pain if pain was inflicted onto him and the people that he cared about. In his eyes, his mother betrayed him and he couldn't look past that. It was said that killing humans would make Henry stronger, so maybe that's where he did start to get that little bit more strength when his mother and sister first died. This was where Brenner then went after Patty, who was performing in the play that Joyce was handing flyers out for in the episode in the most recent volume of the show. Henry went to the school where Patty was participating in Joyce's play, but by then it was too late as Brenner was also there. Henry did his best to get Patty to leave and warn her that somebody was coming for her, but at this point Henry was also being pushed by Brenner to kill her because she was considered to be the weak link and the person that was prohibiting Henry from accessing the full potential of his powers. This ultimately resulted in Henry throwing Patty off the balcony where the play was taking place, and she was presumed to be dead. However, we saw that she did actually end up surviving. This is then where the true darkness in Henry took its hold, and he was back with Brenner being controlled by him as well. From there, we then saw the events that occurred in Season 4. It'll be interesting being able to see a more human side to Henry being explored in the show. We've only ever properly known him as this evil entity of Vecna and somebody that was prepared to cause mass slaughterings in order to get what they wanted. I'm not saying I want a full redemption arc. I don't want any redemption arc at all because he's a great villain, but it will be interesting seeing the history of Henry, his family before they wound up in Hawkins, and exactly how he ended up being the person that the darkness totally consumed. I imagine that we could well end up seeing these events taking place in the show. We've always known that the stage play The First Shadow has been canon to the TV series, but what us being able to see the events in 1959 and also Henry not being able to walk into the cave means is that we might just see it being explored, and it will connect every aspect together. This also means that we could end up seeing Dimension X in the show too. It's said that it could well be different to the likes of the Upside Down, so it'll be interesting to see if the show does explore that. They've not got many episodes to delve into it, but if this is where the Mind Flayer is born and stems from, and the Upside Down is just one small part of this, then I'd love to see how it connects to the wider plot, and if the likes of Max and Holly are going to have to travel through it in order to get back to the right side up. I think that could end up being the case if Dimension X is different to the Upside Down. So to recap the main takeaways, Henry simply can't go into the cave where Max is hiding because it's the spot where his life quite literally changed forever. The place where the Mind Flayer got its hold, and like Will, he was broken for the first time. I guess Will wasn't the first person to show that the younger people in Hawkins were the best targets to reshape the new world. Henry was a victim himself. So, there you have it, why Vecna can't go in the caves in Stranger Things Season 5 Volume 1. If you want to see more videos on Stranger Things Season 5, then check the playlist below. I'm going to be diving into the biggest theories, so be sure to subscribe. Plus, I also broke down the first 4 episodes, so they're over on the channel too. What did you think of Stranger Things Season 5? Share your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video, and I'll see you in the next one.